Going into playing Silent Hill F, I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it, but I came out really loving it. The story was captivating, and there were multiple times later on that just completely hooked me in. And the combat itself, which I didn't expect to be as good as it was actually quite enjoyable, even though it can feel a little bit basic at times. Even still, this is a Silent Hill game that I ended up loving, and I highly recommend playing it, especially if you're on a Steam Deck. That's what we're going to be looking at today's video as well. We're going to be checking out how the game performs on the Steam Deck, if it's worth playing on the go, and what our recommended settings are. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. A copy of the game was provided by Konami for review. Thank you. I was pretty surprised when I saw Silent Hill F get the Steam Deck playable rating, especially after the release of Metal Gear Solid Delta. With the reasons it was rated playable, due to small text and needing to manually set the graphical options, I went in a little bit worried. However, after playing around with the settings, I can say that it's more playable than I expected. However, there are some compromises. Towards the beginning of the game, I did find one spot in particular that I was able to test effectively to make sure the settings are the best they can possibly be. This semi-early area is one where we're engulfed in fog and we have to find the correct dolls to show us to get the way out of the fog. For whatever reason, there's one section of this moment that's just really demanding, so I chose to primarily optimize there. However, I did continually play around with the settings as I continued playing the game, especially when I was in the town, because I wanted to see if view distance and shadows would have an effect on faraway parts of the town. Starting with the upscalers, regardless of whichever I choose, whether it be FSR or TSR, as well as just changing the rendering scale without any upscalers, I ultimately found that FSR on balance provided the best performance and visual quality balance. I had also played around with shadows and view distance to find a balance between better visuals and performance, and with all of those combined, I came to a compromise with FSR balanced, view distance, shadows, and textures on medium, and everything else on low. I also decided to keep the indirect lighting set to lumen high instead of off, and reflections set to screen space reflections, or SSR. Lumen and SSR are usually a very intensive setting to have on, and while I would usually turn it off, it changes the entire look of the world for the worst. Specifically, the iconic fog that defines Silent Hill games and the flowers that define this entry either disappear or become completely colorless. It changes the look and feel of the world, and effectively it ruins the experience. It's still playable with the settings off, but again, it's just not worth it. And again, it is playable with these settings on. However, there's going to be some little extra stutters here and there, but for the trade-off of the visuals, it is worth it. Even with these changes, the doll area is still going to have some drops, but it's stuck above 25 frames per second. With it being the only area I found to behave this way, apart from some cutscenes, I felt the small drops justified the better visuals. There are some small stutters here and there when running around and going to new parts of areas you are exploring, but taking it slow in combat and completing puzzles generally sticks to 30 frames per second and above. There are even some areas that can go up to 40, but there are many more that drop, so I recommend just sticking to 30 for the most stable experience. While there may be some areas that don't drain battery as much, expect it to be pushing the deck to its limits most of the time. There will also be some lighting pop in, and some shadows may have a slight grainy effect at the ends of them, but ultimately everything looks better and stays stable overall. The game does support 16:10 resolution, so there are no black bars at the top or bottom of the screen. It does have cloud saves, and it has good controller support. There are HDR settings, and it does recognize the Steam Deck OLED screen. Against my initial worry, Silent Hill F is still playable and enjoyable on the Steam Deck. It may not have the visual fidelity that can come from more powerful computers and consoles, but it's definitely enjoyable while looking decent, and that's just a treat. It's a really fun game, and I honestly was blown away as I was playing it. I didn't expect it to creep up on me and just hook me in with its story, its combat, and I just started putting all the pieces together of what was going on, and I fell in love with it. This was always going to be a weird entry for the series, even when we first saw it. It looks very different than what we've normally seen in Silent Hill 1, 2, 3, but it is worth playing. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as our next video goes live. And a huge thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. See you next time.